I'm Sevil Mikhailova.
And I'm Claude Salhani, and this is This Week in Focus. We focus this week on something that's very much in the news and very much on everyone's mind, is SOFAZ, the state oil fund of Azerbaijan, whose vice president, did I get your title correct, sir? Israfil Mamadov, who is the executive vice president of SOFAZ, who is with us today to tell us a little bit about what's going on in his neck of the woods, so to speak. Sir, taking into account the situation in the world markets, and not only the world markets, but the world politics, because we have some fireworks going on in our own backyard here today, or yesterday rather, could SOFAZ consider investing in Azerbaijani banks, and that will allow SOFAZ to earn more money, while banks will be able to expand lending opportunities for the country's economy?
Well, thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me to your program. As for your question about the investing in Azerbaijani banks, let me first of all elaborate a bit more about one of the main objectives of the fund. One of the main objectives of the fund is to provide a macroeconomic stability for the country. And the whole sort of rationale behind the creation of the fund in 1999 was to accumulate oil revenues and to sterilize them from the economy. As we all know, this phenomenon of so-called Dash disease. Most of the oil-producing country in the world, they've experienced this problem, and obviously, therefore, the leadership of the country, then President Heydar Aliyev, created the fund with the view of providing this macroeconomic stability to sterilize oil revenues from the economy in order not to distort the macroeconomic stability in the country. So therefore, we are restrained from making investments domestically, as per our investment mandate, and in fact that goes for many sovereign wealth funds around the world.
Sorry to interrupt you. You said domestically. Does that mean you can make investments internationally?
Yes, we are not allowed to invest domestically. We're only allowed to invest outside of the country. So we take the revenues from the oil and then invest outside of Azerbaijan.
It's very interesting to know, sir. Can you please explain us which spheres are priority for your organization to invest?
Well, the investment, as you know, our investments are regulated by investments guidelines and investment policy, and based on those bylaws and changes were made in 2012, we're allowed to invest in fixed income securities, in public equities, in real estate, in gold. Those are investments we're allowed to make.
So it's very interesting to know also, taking into consideration the current situation in the world market where the currencies are losing in their rates, and when there is a crisis in the real estate market, so do you think your investments are still profitable?
Well, let me first of all elaborate about our investment philosophy. The SOFAZ is the sovereign wealth fund, and the sovereign wealth fund with a very long-term investment horizon. We are a future generation fund, and as such.
So you're talking 20 years or more.
Our investment horizon is forever, for future generation of Azerbaijan. Therefore, in fact, we do see a lot in local mass media. Different type of articles about short-term volatility in the market and its effect on our investment portfolio investment. But I have to just warn you that as many long-term investors, for us we can take those short-term volatility which we experience, turbulences which we experience nowadays. When you because our view is long-term. and therefore all those fluctuations, volatility in currency, in asset prices, they are, as a long-term investor, we can take.
The recent fall in oil prices must have hurt you rather considerably, I would imagine.
As far as the oil prices are concerned, obviously, as you know, the main source of revenues for the oil fund is obviously proceeds from the oil and gas project in Azerbaijan, and obviously it's a production of the. It's basically a product of the oil price. I mean, if the oil price goes down, obviously we receive less funds. But in terms of the effect of it's not only direct effect on our investment portfolio. It also, as an investor which invests internationally, obviously the decrease in oil prices also has some positive impact on our portfolio as well, because due to the fact that we invest in many oil importing countries in emerging economies, which obviously benefit from oil prices, and obviously our portfolio performance has been positively affected.
So your portfolio, your currency portfolio is basically in dollar, in euro, and in yuan. The euro and dollar were on the rise over the recent period, but we have some problems with Chinese yuan. What can you tell us about it?
Well, again, we go back to my earlier point, that recent devaluation of value of renminbi does not undermine our rationale, for example, behind investments in China. We know that China is the second largest economy. Again, with our long-term view on the world economy and China's role in the world economy, we are confident we believe in our we have a strong belief in our investments. And I would like to underline that talking about yuan, because there've been recently a lot of talks about our investments. I want to underline that SOFAZ current exposure in China is limited to debt obligations of governments and quasi-governments. And in the slowing down economy, in declining interest rate environment, naturally bonds are more resilient. Debt obligations are more resilient than equities. Therefore, in local currency terms, the performance of SOFAZ, for example, China portfolio, has been satisfactory. So that's obviously about our investment in China, because there's been a lot of interest to our investment in China. As for going back to the currency basket composition, you're absolutely right. Our current currency basket of the fund is comprised 50% allocation to US dollars and 50% allocation to other currencies. And obviously, all the currencies you mentioned, euro, British pounds, Turkish lira, Australian dollar, Japanese yen, yuan, Korean won, and so due to and that's the whole idea, because we receive the revenues in US dollars, and we obviously invest in diversified portfolio. And when I talk about the diversification, I don't mean only diversification in asset classes, but also in currency diversifications. And therefore, due to the global economic developments, as you know, US dollar appreciates significantly against not only, for example, currencies like, for example, Turkish lira or Russian ruble, but most of the world currencies. The currencies of countries at different stages of economic cycles, obviously, they perform differently in the short term. Therefore, as I said before, I will keep repeating about our long-term horizon, and I think that's important to explain to our stakeholders through mass media like yours, that when you try to make any judgments about the performance of institutions like SOFAZ, sovereign wealth funds, you always have to look at long run, not those short-term volatilities.
Are you going to keep your currency portfolio in the way as it is?
This is ongoing process, because we obviously, depending on the risk appetite of our stakeholders, our investment strategy is constantly evolves. And therefore, once reflecting this risk appetite, obviously we will both look into the further diversification, not in the asset classes, but also some possibility of looking. We will constantly look into some other currencies. But there are many important aspects one has to keep in mind, because we are institutional investors, sovereign wealth fund. We have substantial funds under our management. Therefore, when we look into different currency opportunities, apart from the economic, let's say, the health of the economy in a particular country, we also look into the depths of the capital markets in those countries. As you can imagine, I mean, some countries obviously have a very small capital market, and there is a limited opportunity for our investments in those currencies. But the short answer is yes. We obviously constantly look into various opportunities around the globe.
Do you plan to invest in a specific field, so let's say real estate or currency, by the end of this year?
Well, by the as I said, if you look at our current investment portfolio, the major changes we made to our investment portfolio was back in 2012. That's opened. It was a major milestone in our history. We've become diversified, multi-asset class investors. As you know, before 2012, we were primarily investing in very conservatively in fixed income.
And I have good news for you. So today the world markets gave very positive signals to oil prices, 11% rise in oil prices. How do you met with this news?
Well, it's quite a big question. Obviously, as an oil producing country, you always obviously hope that you'll get which is also difficult. You'll get the higher oil prices, not necessarily positive for oil producing country. I guess I think it should be a balance, because obviously extremely high oil prices, they obviously negatively affects the global economy, and we as a institutional investor which invests globally, we obviously interested in a more sort of in a global growth and in a stability of the world economy. So that's basically my answer.
So you are representing an organization who is accepted as a guarantor of the future generations. So do you think that your organization is in the right track?
If you could possibly specify your question or make it a bit more clear, because when you say on the right track...
I mean, the spheres you are involved in, I mean, the investments you are putting in. So do you think that it will serve the future generations?
Well, that's a very good question, in fact. And that's probably my favorite question. Because I'll explain to you why. We are, as a sort of a long-term investor, we constantly look into our investment, let's say, policies, investment strategies. Our, as I said, objective is to maximize our long-term risk-adjusted return. So not only and to provide this intergenerational equality, because of the oil underground is a depletable resource, and our objective is obviously to transform those resources into financial assets. To some extent, it's an endowment, and we want and to provide this intergenerational equality. So not only current generation but future generation to come, so they can benefit from it. But in order to achieve that, of course, we have to invest in, diverse, multi-asset class investments, and with a view of, diversified portfolio, with a view of maximizing our long-term investment returns. But obviously, as a transparent organization, we only act within the sort of risk parameters of our stakeholders. So if our stakeholders, for example, they don't want us to take excessive risks, obviously we continue, to be sort of a conservative investor. But if our stakeholders' risk appetite allows us to invest in more diversified asset classes, then obviously it also helps all of us to, in the long run, to maximize our investment return. But I have to warn you, those diversified investments, they bring a lot of volatility. And that's what you, representative of mass media, you don't like. All short-term volatility in currencies, in asset classes, makes you very nervous. You come back to us and say, why is this happening? Of course, we're happy to explain it to you, provided that you have let's say, you understand that when you judge our performance, you have to look in the long run, not in the short run. I hope that I've managed to explain it.
Thank you so much for taking.
Thank you very much. That was great.
I gave his short title. You gave his full title, which is perfect. With that, I wish you a better tomorrow.